Well, good morning and welcome to the Spreading Wings Opening Doors Appreciation Event. We are so excited to have you join us with here today. I'm Sarah Prout. I'm a proud 2007 graduate of the University of North Dakota. Excited to have you here today. We have a great lineup of speakers and it's going to be a wonderful event. Just to start off a few kind of housekeeping things throughout the event today, if you have any questions that you would like asked, at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. So you can pop those questions right into there and we'll be monitoring them and be able to answer your questions as we go along today. So without further ado, it is my honor to introduce you, CEO of the UND Alumni Association and Foundation, Deanna Carlson-Zink.
Thank you, Sarah. And good morning, everyone, from the beautiful Goretzky Alumni Center. I wish we could all be together in person today, celebrating what you have created for our students. Yes, it's not always easy, is it? Finding joy in a pandemic. However, you, the donors, have created so much joy for our students and their families. And today we want to share some of that with you. A special thank you to all of our UND faculty and staff who also stepped up to help our students with these two programs. You help our students daily and you're so important in their lives. And the fact that you gave of your treasure in addition to your time and talent is just so remarkable. And we thank you. To all of you, thank you for being the reason our students can find a smile and can continue to pursue their dream of a UND education. We are so lucky to have wonderful leadership at this university. And you often hear of our tagline, Leaders in Action. Well, I want you to know it's not just a tagline or something we say very cavalier. It is a truth that is spoken here. And you could also say in all cap letters, these are leaders who care, like Cassie Gerhart, Janelle Kilgore, and so many more. So first of all, some of you have participated by making gifts to the UND Angel Fund and others to the Open Door Scholarship. So let me tell you a little bit about these two programs. The UND Angel Fund provides financial help for students for various needs, anything but tuition, actually, medical bills, food, living costs, anything that may have come up that a student needs assistance with. Through this fund, our students have received an average of $680 for those who had applied, and it's been administered by UND's Division of Student Affairs and Diversity. In total, to date, we have raised $206,000, thanks to each of you, and 295 students have benefited from these gifts. Before the formalization of the Angel Fund, the resources were very limited and only allowed 2 to 4 students to be helped in a year. What strides we have made, all because of you, because of your gifts. Earlier this year, we had many more requests that we could barely keep up with. And where we stand now, we have finally built up enough funds to have some on reserve for requests heading into 2021, but it is still a critical need. Now, the Open Door Scholarship was developed solely for tuition aid. And on average, the students who had applied received about $1,000. This program is being administered through our UND Student Finance Office. The goal was to get to $600,000 by December 31. And I am so excited to tell you that that goal has been met. A $300,000 match was provided by our board of directors, and to date, we have now raised $330,000. 158 students have benefited from this program. Because of your generosity, students have been able to come back to UND. Our undergrad returning student enrollment was down about 4.7%, which was a definite improvement from where we were earlier in the year when we started this program, when we were down an 8% in students returning. So now I would like to introduce you to one of those amazing leaders who care, and that's Cassie Gerhardt, who is our Associate VP of Student Affairs and our Associate Dean of Students. Now, when Cassie and I first started talking about this, I was telling her, we have individuals who are calling us and saying, how can we help? What do our students need? And the stories that Cassie told me literally brought me to tears. And if you have not had the opportunity to work with Cassie, you should know that she embodies the term angel. I told her about these individuals calling, and it was then we came up with the idea to put more effort into our angel fund so we could help students with their day-to-day needs. So thank you, Cassie, for all you do. And please tell our guests about this program and about some of the requests you've received.
Thanks so much, Deanna, and thanks to your team for making all of those numbers a reality. We couldn't do it without your amazing team at the Alumni Association and Foundation. You know, what's so interesting is that the Angel Fund was something we discussed before we knew the word COVID. We had students who had needs that we wanted to try to meet. Our goal at the time, pre-COVID, was to try and raise $25,000 so we could endow and have some money in perpetuity. And then COVID struck the world and certainly our campus community. And so we knew we needed to deploy those resources. And so, you know, to think that we've now been able to award over $200,000 to students in need. This spring, the stories were, I'm out of work for a couple of weeks. I need a little bit to get me by. It's unforeseen medical expenses this spring. I will tell you the theme of the request this fall are students who are more personally impacted by COVID. It is stories like one I've got up right now. It's the student who's got a couple of roommates and needs to pay rent, but he's paying rent and he's got to go through 2 rounds of quarantine at 14 days each. So there's 28 days out of work. And then this individual contracted COVID himself. So it was another week and a half out of work. So for our students to be out of work, and this is just one of many of these types of experiences, for 3 and 4 weeks, didn't have the money to pay rent. And so this money has really gone to provide food, to pay utilities, to pay Wi-Fi expenses while they learn remote, just some of those basic things. We don't have students who are asking for spring break trips or new clothes or those things. They're really just talking for the, asking for support to get through the essentials so they can continue to be students here at the university.
That is wonderful, wonderful. And I'm going to remind you too, as Sarah had talked about, is if you have questions along the way about either one of these programs, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat. So speaking of those requests and students, Cassie, we have one remarkable student with us today who I know you know well, Francis Samuel. And Francis was a recipient of our Angel Fund. He graduated in the spring of 2020 with social studies education and minors in anthropology and middle level education. And Francis is continuing his education, we're happy to say, and he is a first-year master's student. Please welcome Francis Samuel, who is an Angel Fund recipient, and here is his testimonial.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you so much for having me, of course. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Cassie, for having me. As was mentioned, I did graduate just recently with a degree in education, and I am now working as a middle school social studies teacher. I'm very fortunate to be teaching in Minneapolis. The student body that I work with particularly right now are recent immigrants or first generation students from Somalia. So really introducing them to American history and American culture is sort of the my focus as a teacher. But in order for me to become a better teacher, it's important for me to continue my education, whether it's in the culture and lives of my students, as well as my curriculum, the social studies curriculum, what it means to be a social studies teacher, and education as large, education as a discipline and as a philosophy. However, the paradoxical thing about education is that once you start teaching, teachers are, the stipend that we receive is based on our years of experience and our postgraduate credits. So in order for me to, move up the teacher pay scale, it's important for me to keep working and to keep learning. But paradoxically, I have to pay for this tuition, and I'm very happy to continue this education at UND. Naomi McGoy is one of my most favorite professors. I'm so happy to be able to continue my education with her. But the paradoxical thing is that, I need the money to pay for the class, but I can't get the money without taking the class. And that's what the Angel Fund has done. It's given me just that little wiggle room in my modest teacher salary to be able to afford groceries, to be able to afford to keep the lights on. The heat, fortunately, it hasn't been too cold, so the heat bill is down a little bit. But just what the Angel Fund scholarship has done, it's given me a little bit of wiggle room, and with that wiggle room, I'm able to develop the savings I need for future semesters to come.
That is wonderful, Francis. So, how did you find out about the Angel Fund?
So the Angel Fund, I actually found out just after I graduated. Like I said, I graduated in May, and I stayed in Grand Forks through the end of that month. And as I was applying for financial aid and redoing my FAFSA, the Angel Fund was brought up to me by the workers in Tuamli Hall because when I had applied for the financial aid the first time around, they had not yet switched my account from an undergraduate to a graduate account. So when they looked at my transcripts and they said, "Hey, Francis, you have," when I graduated, I had 178 credits. I'm like, "Francis, you have 50 credits more than you need to graduate with an undergraduate degree. Therefore, you do not qualify for the undergraduate tuition." And that was a really big blow for me. It was really tragic. But then, later on in the summer, they said, "Hey, we made a mistake. We have updated your account to a graduate account. Unfortunately, it is too late in the summer for us to award you as much as you were looking for. Maybe you should get in contact with Cassie Gerhardt. They have some revolving door policies, the open door scholarship, the Angel Fund policy." So it was through Tuamli and Student Services that I was able to come across the Angel Fund.
That's wonderful. And it leads to, and I'm going to ask Cassie to put her video back up and unmute as well, because it leads to one of the questions we've received was, how do you publicize these programs? So couple answers to that. First of all, what we do through the Alumni Association and Foundation is we've had mailings on it. We've had information on email and web-based, of course. It's part of what we're talking about as we come to the end of the year. And all of our development officers are very well aware of the program as well. So we try to tell as many alumni and friends as possible to be involved with this. But Cassie, why don't you talk a little bit about, so Francis gave his example on how he found out about it, but what is your team doing to help our students get connected?
Sure. We've spent some time making sure that our frontline staff are aware of it. So those people who are closest to our students and hearing about their stories. So our academic advisors, our colleagues in One Stop Student Services, a lot of our frontline staff, people who facilitate the various services in student affairs and diversity, making sure that they're aware and pointing students in the right direction. I'll be honest, Deanna, yesterday afternoon, for the first time, I shared with my colleagues in those areas that right now, to let people know we're really out of resources. And so you shared some really, really great numbers. Since Monday, when I shared those numbers with your team to get ready for this event, we funded a few more students. And right now I have $679 available, and I'm sitting on 12 requests from students. Wow. And so for the first time yesterday, I had to tell my colleagues, I don't want to overpromise or set students up for expectations that this would be funded. And so just to let them know, we want to hear their stories. We want them to make requests, but that right now our resources are significantly limited. Like I said, I think my balance is about 679. And then I think also the Angel Fund has spread throughout the campus community. I think students have shared it with other students, peer groups and things like that. The communication has gotten out.
Yes, and that's a good thing. We want that to continue on to help more students like Francis. And now we're down to where we were when we started, that we can maybe only help one or two. But we know we have very generous alumni and friends, and we're going to continue to tell this story. Francis, what was your reaction when you found out that you were going to receive those funds?
It was a tremendous weight off of my shoulders. When I get stressed out, I tend to tense up and I carry that tension in my shoulders. But as soon as I got that email, as soon as I, opened up that email, and the email saying that, we are able to help you in this time of need, just a huge breath of fresh air. My shoulders dropped. And as soon as, I closed out of that email, paid off rent, went and bought groceries, and I just knew that I could be comfortable for quite a while now with this additional funding.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Francis, what would you say to those individuals who are with us today who helped make that gift possible for you?
There's really not a way that I can put into words how grateful I am for this scholarship or for this endowment. The generous contributions that you all gave, whether it's signing a checkbook or putting a few numbers into the computer, might mean just a few minutes out of your day. However, that means a month of financial security for me and other students to come. And as strapped for cash as I am at this moment, I know I am not. There are other students who benefited much more from this scholarship who I'm sure wish could be here as well. To thank you so much, especially in this time of need. As Deanna and Cassie had shared, there are so many students who are in similar situations where their income is greatly reduced or it simply stopped at all. So just the few minutes that you guys take out of your day means so much to so many people for a variety of reasons. And not just a little bit of dopamine. It's a couple months of financial security, rent, heat, food, and comfortability.
That's wonderful. So yes, thank you to those donors. And Francis, we're so happy that you're finding success that you already did as an undergrad and now as a master's student. And we're so thankful that you chose the University of North Dakota as your school. So let's move on to our Open Door Scholarship. So as we came into May, we started hearing stories of students who were not registering for classes in the fall. As we said, we were about down 8% at that point. And we were hearing stories of students who had lost their jobs, whose parents had lost their jobs due to COVID, and that they were not going to be able to return to classes without some sort of assistance. The assistance that they had, the resources that they had, were totally maxed out, and they did not know how they were going to come back to school. In my conversation with Janelle Kilgore, the Vice President of Strategic Enrollment and Management, I once again was brought to tears in listening to these stories as she had parents and students sitting across from her who were in tears themselves. So we developed another opportunity for donors, and that was this Open Door Scholarship. So here's a video that we rolled out in June to try and raise the awareness of our Open Door Scholarship needs.
Individual students and families are facing some very difficult decisions right now due to lost income. Students don't have access to resources or maybe have used up all the resources they had. So what does this really mean? It means individual students are not able to pursue their dream of a University of North Dakota education. Students and their families are making decisions now as to whether or not they can come back to school in the fall. And in fact, about 8% of our undergraduate students have not yet re-enrolled for fall classes because they don't know if they have the resources to continue with their education. The Open Door Scholarship is unique in that we need gifts today. Today for our students in the fall and the spring. And right now we have a very generous match of $300,000. And so this is for current gifts that are coming in specifically for these scholarships, and our goal is to raise an additional $300,000 so that there would be available $600,000 for an Open Door Scholarship for those students who need those gifts in order to pursue their UND education. I ask you to consider the opportunity to open a door for a student today. A student that can walk through that door, receive their UND education, and look back with pride on this great university. And someday in the future, they're going to reach back to another student in need because of what you did today.
A special thanks to my colleague, Milo Smith, for putting together that video. And as I mentioned, I'm so humbled to announce that at the end of last week, we had raised that additional $334,000 for Open Door scholarships, which has created more than the $600,000 for students who need those scholarships. And here to tell you more about this program is our Vice Provost of Strategic Enrollment and Management, Janelle Kilgore.
Thanks, everybody. Happy to be here today. Thanks, Deanna, for your team and our generous donors for providing this opportunity. I'm Janelle Kilgore, and I have worked within student financial aid for about 20 years. And so I have seen a lot of different stories, a lot of students that maybe aren't able to afford their education and we're just barely making ends meet. And so when this pandemic hit and students and families' income were being impacted just by everything being shut down and loss of hours and individuals losing their job, it became even more worrisome of trying to help these students finish their degree or even start their degree, and in some cases. We are happy to have this opportunity. This fund is flexible enough that we can work with students and families to really be able to give them opportunities that we've never been able to give here at the University of North Dakota. And so I just want to share a few different stories. And I know we have an individual recipient on today, and her story is fantastic as well. But here are a few other stories from our students that we have been able to help with through the Angel Fund. So imagine you're a student, you're going to school, you get a call from your family in February prior to really the pandemic hitting the United States that your parent has been diagnosed with cancer. 1 week later, this individual's father passed away and really was trying to grapple with the death of a parent. But really what happens when there's a death of a parent, all of a sudden the financials kind of come into light on can the student really still afford to go to school, or do they have to go somewhere else? Do they need to go to a school that is more affordable? Lots of different things happening in that mindset, as well as grieving. And then you add the pandemic on top of it. So lots of stress that's happening there. So we were able to award that student the Open Door Scholarship to really help reduce that financial stress that the student was experiencing, to help take care of their family and everything else that happened within that. We had a single dad who pays child support. He is a recovering addict. He has really changed his life. He has really worked hard as a part-time student to pursue his degree. He is working full-time. His company put a mandatory furlough in place where he had to take time off without pay. And he also had to take a 25% pay cut on his annual wage. So he's losing hours. He's now lost, his security of the income that he had before. And he was really barely making ends meet before. And so he had to make a decision on if he was going to continue to pursue his education or if he had to put it on hold. And again, he had made great strides to change his life and really be able to provide a new opportunity and a new outlook for what he is passionate about. And so really being that opportunity to that individual. I actually got a phone call from him, and the joy in his voice that he had that opportunity and no longer had to make that decision of, paying the essentials, paying his lights, paying the bills. He was able to continue pursuing his degree. He has 8 classes left, so he's right at the tail end of his education here at the university. So it's really exciting to be able to have that opportunity. We had another student who had a falling out with their family, and the family actually kicked this individual student out of their home and is no longer able to, they're no longer in contact, and the family is no longer providing resources. And so in that case, that family isn't even willing to provide financial information for the FAFSA application. And so this student was really reliant on a part-time job in order to pay for their education let alone, having the Open Door Scholarship to be able to provide that additional comfort piece. We know over the years that financial stress has been a huge component of a student's life and a family's life, right? We know the University of North Dakota is really an affordable institution if you look at our peers across the nation, but it's not affordable for everybody. And every day there are students and families having to make the choice, do they want to make this commitment or not? And I will say, as a parent myself, and with all the families that I have worked with over the years, there is no worse feeling in the world to sit across from a family where you aren't able to provide the additional financial support that they need to help their student or help their child pursue their dreams, right? And so sitting across the desk from a family and say, I don't have any other resources, has happened in prior years. So with this Open Door Scholarship, we have been able to award 158 scholarships as of last week. And these would have been families that we would have been turning away because we just didn't have these flexible resources for them. And so again, kudos to everybody that has been providing that opportunity for these students and families. The low income students really are in the process of survival mode while they were in the pandemic, or still in survival mode for the most part. And higher education is really a luxury for them. And so again, when you're looking at trying to provide for food on the table, paying rent, having that safe space versus going to school, these were decisions that our students and families were having to make every day. And with the pandemic, it was just growing even more. And so we are fortunate. We actually saw an increase in retention from our low income students. We had typically retain our low income students at about 72%. From fall 2019 to spring 2020, we actually increased to 73%. And again, a large part of that is this Open Door Scholarship and the Angel Fund, because they are helping those students that don't have those additional resources, or helping students that may not have to pick up extra hours or extra shifts, where that takes their mindset away from their academic side of the house. I can't thank you enough for all these opportunities. University of North Dakota, our enrollments were strong. We were pleasantly surprised. We know our counterparts across the nation were not as lucky. And again, it's a large part of what's happening with the scholarships, or these scholarships, Deanna. So again, thanks to you and to your donors for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for all you do, Janelle. And your comment about a UND degree is a luxury. Well, it is our belief organizationally that everybody who wants that opportunity at a UND education should have that opportunity. And that's why scholarships across the board have been so important to us and to our donors. And right now in particular, it was a critical need. And I will never forget what one of our donors said to us, that I was an ordinary student who had an opportunity to receive an extraordinary education at the University of North Dakota, and it changed my life. And that's why we are here today, and why we are so focused on helping students through scholarships. So for those of you who have checked out our recent issue of the UND Alumni Magazine, this next student may look familiar to you. Heather Lentz is a senior majoring in computer science with the UND College of Engineering and Mines. And this is her second time being enrolled as a student at UND. And she has quite a story to tell. And I'll also, I think my team is going to put up in the chat the website where you can also read Heather's story. But a reminder, if you have questions for anybody on the screen, please put them in the chat. So Heather, welcome, and let's hear your story.
Hi, thank you for having me today. You guys are making me tear up with all these other stories. So like they said, I'm a current UND undergrad. I'm in my senior year. This is my second attempt at a bachelor's degree at UND. My first was aviation. That's what kind of leads me into my story of how I got to where we were. Yeah, I'm losing track of my thoughts. So
Tell us about why you did choose UND and the aviation school. Start there, Heather.
Okay.
What was your interest in the aviation?
As a young child who moved around place to place, I fell in love with flying. So like my parents flew us to the United States when my mom got restationed in the United States. So there was a long flight there, and every aspect of it was this flying. And so I loved it. I loved flying. I loved looking out the windows. And when I was in high school, I applied for 2 colleges. I went to school at Central in Grand Forks, and I had gotten accepted to both schools, University of Fairbanks, Alaska, and UND. But I grew up on UND campus. My mom is an alumni from UND. She would be taking me to classes when she was going through school herself. I spent lots of time in the art department. And so UND was my home territory. That's where I wanted to go. That's also where my sister is going. So that this is our home.
Absolutely. And then unfortunately, you had a couple tragedies along the way, and you did, like you said, this is the second time you came back to UND. Tell us what happened and really how it's led to what you're studying today.
During my first attempt at UND for the aviation, I found out that I was pregnant. And my first pregnancy was hard. I was young. I would say too young, like for any other woman, hold out. But I ended up being put on bed rest. I went into early labor around like the 26-week mark, and bed rest helped me a lot. And most of my professors that semester while I was on bed rest were very understanding. They gave me time and extra. But then it was the next semester that when my daughter was finally born, she had severe jaundice. She was severely premature weight, just overall hard. First month or 2. And I happened to give birth the beginning week of opening semester. So I was in the hospital for the first week. The second week, I had a newborn, was trying to figure out all the aspects of having a newborn, and then having all these medical things where I couldn't leave her off of her machines for more than 2 hours. So going to class was not possible. Sending her to a daycare was not possible for me. And as time showed, my struggles with being a new parent and doing school unfortunately reflected as me failing school. So I did end up failing out. So that next summer and the next semester, all I did was work because I had to pay back the money for the semester I failed. And then I moved back in with my father, me, his granddaughter, and him. And he said, you know what, here's your 2 options. You either go back to school and still live here, or you're like, you can move on, figure out a better job and start working. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I moved over to Northland. It's not a bachelor's degree. And what I realized, it would take me like maybe 3 more semesters to have a degree, associate's degree. So I went back for that. And as I was working in my field as a pharmacy technician, which is the degree that I got, I ended up seeing people come in, technicians come in to fix our computer systems. And so law-wise, they had to have a technician watch, because even though they're in the background working on the back part of the computer, they could have popped open drawers to possibly steal drugs. So you need to have a technician watch. so that they're not doing that. And that's when I was like, whoa, I like what he's doing. Like, I like seeing this back end of the computer, like what he's capable of doing. And it didn't register or click in my head that, hey, maybe I wanted to switch. Not yet. It was I had my second daughter, and then it was my son, who I had become pregnant with while working for this company. And I went to the doctors. I did all the checkups, everything. My second daughter was a rough pregnancy, but not as bad as this third one. The third one ended with a stillborn. But what killed me and sent me into like severe depression and stuff is like I showed up for my 6-week appointment, which all women do after they give birth. And the doctor had asked me, well, how's baby doing? She hadn't looked at the chart. Nobody had charted it that there was no baby anymore. And so I was like, this doesn't seem right. No woman who has already gone through what I've already done should have to relive it by somebody asking me. And so that's where I was like, I want to change it. I want no other woman to show up to her 6-week appointment and go, there's no baby. Like, so that's when I started looking into what I could do to change that. Now, I don't hold grudges against the doctors. I don't hold grudges against the companies, any of the companies involved. I just want to know enough so that I can fix it, so that I can throw my 2 ideas out there, and hopefully it will save somebody else from the same heartbreak that I had.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what is the degree you're pursuing now, Heather?
I am a computer science major in, we do a lot of software engineering with the minor in cybersecurity. So I'll know both sides, the sides that protect everybody from information getting leaked, and also how to fix the programs or even build a program, a new from scratch program that can help document stuff like what has happened to me.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you're going to be able to do that for others. And it must have seemed like just when you find your way and you head back to college and you're here and you're excited to pursue this degree, you have a young family, you're working hard, and COVID hits. How did that affect you?
So as a student, and with a family, I knew that the student aspect was back burner. If I needed money versus paying tuition and keeping the roof over my kids' head, that the roof over my kids' head was more important. I ran a business and did online schooling so that I could still have an income coming in. And I owned a daycare and ran it out of my house. It was very easy for me to do both at the same time. But COVID hit, and all of my clients were teachers. So when all of Grand Forks schools said, nope, we're going to do this online, well, my teachers' kids stopped coming to daycare because they were home with their kids and we're doing it online. Even though I'm sure most of the teachers are like, hey, yeah, take my kids. But that was my push. I didn't want to take out loans to try to scoot the business by and ended up having to repay it. So that was my ultimate decision, was to officially close down the daycare and look for other jobs. And I struggled to look for other jobs this summer and this fall. And so I didn't know, like I said, it was roof over my head or tuition. And that's where we got to how I was going to apply for the scholarship, because I didn't have tuition money. It just didn't come.
How did you hear about the scholarship? And then Janelle, maybe you can come back on screen too and talk about the different ways we're trying to let students know about this opportunity. But Heather, how did you find out?
So like I said, my mom's an alumni of UND, and she still has friends in certain offices. She wouldn't give me the name of who told her, um, but she gave me the heads up. She goes, "There's two of these that you might qualify for," and I said, "Okay." So I looked into it, and at the time that I was reading, I didn't think I applied for both of them. But then I also thought, well, it's not going to hurt me if I apply for it and you guys say no. So then I was just like, wow, I guess I do apply for it when I did get the notice that I had it. And I was like, okay, so this helps me. I have tuition this semester, not trying to scrape by.
Yes, yes. And Janelle, how are we trying to let students be aware?
Sorry, Deanna, my video isn't coming back on.
Oh,
So
okay,
okay,
okay. There you
Sorry,
are.
thank you. Yeah, so our One Stop Student Services is sending messages to students that have past due balance or outstanding balances. We are trying to get the message out across campus to our various folks, much like Cassie had said. Our soundbite is we have the Angel Fund and we have the Open Door Scholarship. If you are talking or working with students who are in need, please let them know about these opportunities. The applications are out on the One Stop Student Services website. It takes just a few minutes. And hopefully, Heather, you can speak to that just a few minutes. We don't want to, it's not a long invasive process, but we also want to make sure that we're providing the right, or getting the right information so we can make the true assessment. One Stop Student Services right now is also reaching out to any student who owes $3,000 or more. They've been doing it probably for the last month. And students that are running into financial hardship or similar situations to Heather or Francis, they're talking about the Open Door Scholarship as an opportunity to help fill that gap. Because we know right now, if a student has an outstanding balance of $300 or more, they're not getting enrolled for the spring semester. And so we want to, again, provide them that opportunity so students can stay enrolled in their classes.
And in all the enrollment processes are going on right now, Janelle, correct? And so we need to make sure that students are aware of this today.
Yep. We are in the 5th week of registration for the spring semester. And so we are definitely wanting to make sure that students are hearing that message loud and clear. And so we have had quite a few students that have applied. We've approved more than we've denied, which is exciting. As of the end of last week, we had gotten an additional 12 applications for the Open Door Scholarship, and I anticipate we will continue to get those going into the start of the spring semester. We are also talking to students who are struggling with housing. And so we want to make sure too that students that are leaving campus and maybe going home, that they're going to a stable environment where they can continue to work and focus on their academic studies rather than maybe not have internet or not a stable environment or a safe environment in some cases for some of our students. And so making sure we're also having that financial counseling with students to talk about, here's some opportunities too that we can help provide some additional assistance for you to live on campus or live in our community.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So Heather, what are your plans moving forward now?
I am signed up for classes.
Excellent.
Yep. My plan is to get through the rest of my classes for this degree and hopefully get in with a company who does work with medical programs, and hopefully get to the point where I can be like, hey, I think this needs to be fixed, and here is why. Right now I'm working with companies that are teaching me a whole lot of how things work. And so I hope to continue with them for at least until they tell me that I can't. But yes, just to get finished is my main goal.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And you will. We know you will. You will. So Heather, what would you like to say to those individuals who made this scholarship possible for you?
Now, hopefully I can say this without crying, but um, thank you guys so much for your guys' donations, for the opportunity to have this. And it's not just for me, it's for the people who I help in the future, such as the other women, and it's for my children. My children will have a better life if we're not living paycheck to paycheck like we are now. Um, and hopefully they also see the struggles that I've gone through to get to here so that they um, know that it's possible. So it's not just me who's getting help, it's them too.
Absolutely. That is very well said, Heather, because we know that scholarships, from the stories we've heard, don't just help one individual. They can help a whole family. They can create opportunities for an entire family. And we are so thankful that you did find out about this scholarship, that you are able to continue pursuing your degree for the benefit of your children and for all those women out there who are you're gonna help. Unfortunately, because of your tragedy, but to help them have a better experience. So thank you for choosing the University of North Dakota and being here as one of our outstanding students. So again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. It's been really wonderful visiting with Janelle and Cassie, Francis and Heather, and hearing their stories. And I hope that you are feeling the appreciation that these students, these leaders who care, have for each of you. You are changing lives. You are making a difference. As you've heard, the financial need is still great. Financial aid requests have doubled. 14% of our students still have outstanding balances on their tuition this semester. And I believe, Janelle can correct me if I'm wrong, but that totals $7.8 million. That's a lot of need with our students here. And I'm not sure if you realize, but first generation students really are at a greater risk of dropping out due to financial setbacks because they don't know all of the resources that may be available to them. They don't have anybody to lean on who has been a college student. And it may surprise you to know that 30% of those enrolled at UND are first generation college students. So us helping them get that degree to move forward, it's exactly what Heather is saying. It's going to change a family's life. It's going to definitely change their lives. And who knows how many after that. Requests from international students are also very high because they have not qualified for any of the CARES Act funding. And so that's another area that we want to focus on. And when we say these scholarships can help change lives. This fall, we saw a 7.4% decline in enrollment of freshmen who came from low-income families. Every gift makes a difference. Every dollar is important to those students. And we want students to be able to finish their education here at UND. This is their home. This is where an institution can change a life and create so many opportunities because we've had the opportunity to hear those stories and meet those people. And the students who are here today need to have that same opportunity. So I'll ask one more time if there are any questions, and if not, see if any of my colleagues have popped up any questions. We greatly appreciate you being here. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to those who have already supported these two programs. And if you feel moved to do so again, please visit our Angel Fund or Open Door Scholarship pages that will appear at the end of this program on the slide, or go to our website as well, undalumni.org, and you're going to find both of those pages out there. And it's a wonderful gift to change a life at the end of this crazy pandemic year. I have found that the best kind of people are those who come into your life and help you see rainbows instead of just the rain. And that's what our donors, each of you, have done. You've created sunshine, you've created rainbows, you've created opportunities for these students, and you have helped these students find joy. We greatly appreciate you and we appreciate your heart. So now to all of you, I'll put on my Santa hat. To all of you, may you find joy this holiday season. And please, please stay safe, stay well, take care of those around you, and enjoy this holiday season. Goodbye.